Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. I'm really excited to introduce you to Gellyahanah Aakhen, who decodes soul contracts. I recently met her through Matt Gottesman, who you've seen on the show a couple times, and I'm so excited he finally introduced us to, because I learned so much about what is hidden in our name. The sounds of our name is what forms our soul contracts. So please welcome Gellyahanah to the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome, and I am so excited to do the show with you. Thank you for having me. And a huge shout out to Matt for making the connection.
I know. Matt's so great. So, I've never even heard of the soul contract being done through the sound frequency of your name. So explain that to the audience just right now so they understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. I think that's something that most people don't know, but let's just talk about sound frequency for a moment, because this is how I start all my readings. I explain this to people because I know it's a unique concept. So sound is extremely powerful when it comes to creation. Okay, so this is the example I give everybody. Regardless of how you feel about the Bible, if we look at the very, very beginning, there's literally nothing until God starts to speak things into existence, right? It's, and God said, so sound preceded light. So sound is, like I said, super powerful when it comes to creation. And something that most people have heard of is sound healing, right? That's more of a popular concept. So sound is extremely powerful. And what most people don't realize is when the soul is in the process of choosing its next life incarnation, the soul chooses a number of things, parents, where it's going to be born, what we're going to look like, our birth day, and our birth name, right? And so the birth name is what's important. And most of us are used to looking at our birth date for horoscopes or astrology, numerology, but we completely overlook the name because most people think, oh, well, the parents gave me the name.
Yes.
Well, no, they didn't, right? I mean, so the soul is the soul's job to get it to the parents or whoever is going to be helping choose the name, the siblings, the aunts, the cousins, whatever, and is the parent's job to get it correct. So if you ask any parent, there's usually some story of how they came up with their child's name. Right. And I have this TikTok that I keep reposting, and it talks about this concept. And in there, the call to action is, how did, your parents come up with your name, or how did you come up with your child's name? And it, without fail, every time I posted, that video goes like somewhat viral because everyone has a story that they want to share about the name. So that's the premise of this modality that I do. And so the name that I work with is the full name on your birth certificate.
Okay. Yes. And so for everyone who's listening, we will get into showing you what that contract looks like for you guys watching on YouTube. If you're listening, it will be, you'll see the video on Spotify as well. But if you're on Apple or any other podcast, if you do want to watch the video, just go to YouTube or Spotify, because you'll be able to see the actual contract and what it looks like. 'Cause it's super cool. It looks like a Merkaba.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm using. I'm using a Merkaba to put the we take the sound frequency and we put it around the Merkaba. And when we show it, I'll actually break it down for people so they can see. We're going to use yours as an example, which I think is always exciting. Yeah. And you're literally going to be bearing your soul to the world, which you do with your audience anyways.
They already know. They already got it. A little extra isn't going to hurt anyone. So before we kind of get into more of the soul contracts, how did you get here? Like, when did you start reading soul contracts, and when did you find out about all this?
Like all good things, they find us, right? The things that are meant to find us, they just do. So, for me, I think, I've always felt different, and you hear the story from many people. Like, I just felt so different growing up, but I also thought everybody was like me. I didn't realize that I was intuitive in any way. I thought everybody could see what I saw. Everybody could feel what I was feeling. I remember very distinctly in high school, I was talking to one of my best friends, Jenny. We're still best friends. She's one of my best friends to this day. And she's telling me about this guy she has a crush on. And I look at her and I'm like, you like him? He's a black hole of energy. What are you talking about? And she looked at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like looking at her like, you seriously don't see this? And she's like, okay. She's like, I love you, but I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, maybe I do see or feel things that other people don't. Because I think growing up, none of us want to feel like we're quote unquote special in any way. You know what I mean? And not that I felt that made me special, but we always talk ourselves out of having an extra talent or anything like that. So I was like, I don't know. But at some point I just couldn't deny it anymore, because I would always just know things that other people didn't. So that was kind of the beginning of me understanding there's something else going on. But to fast forward, to take it to the point of how I got into soul contracts very specifically, I ended up going through a divorce at 34. I was with him for 17 years. Okay. So at 34, that was literally half my life.
Yeah.
My entire adult life. And so you can imagine that wasn't just a divorce. That was my entire life went on its head. He was my business partner. He was actually my technical co-founder of my company. We have a child together. We had homes. I mean, the whole thing. I was 34. I felt like I was 100. But when we split up, that essentially was one of the catalysts. I say one of, because shortly after him and I split up, I ended up connecting with one of my karmic connections. A very powerful karma. He was the final catalyst that really, he just.
And we love those karmic connections.
Yeah, he tore my heart into 1,000 pieces. So that was kind of like the final push. But that was very shortly after my divorce. So essentially the divorce kicked off this spiritual journey, right? Of healing. And it was during this healing journey that I was exploring different modalities and discovering everything that's available out there. I was just very curious, as many of us are when we're going through our awakening and we're searching for healing, because those moments could be like spiritual awakening is like some of the darkest moments of our life, right? Because it gets really dark before we find that light.
They should call it spiritual darkening.
They really should. Yeah, they really should. Because, and I tell people, the more conscious you are, the darker your 30s are going to be, because it's around the age of 35 that we're meant to start going through the spiritual awakening. So like I said, that's why I said my divorce came through at 34. It's actually very significant. And when we look at your soul contract, I'll explain that. But 35 is usually the age for most people that it gets dark. So for me, going through that darkness, I discovered the soul contract work. I happened to just stumble upon an interview with my teacher, and he's talking about soul contracts and showing this chart that we're going to show. And it was like every cell in my body was on fire. Like I was like, who is this man? What is he talking about? This is fascinating. I quickly ran over, got on my computer, started Googling, researching him. He has a book. And so I was like, I couldn't buy it fast enough. I ordered it, went back to watching the interview, and I was like, wait a second, the book isn't going to be here until tomorrow. I need his book now. So I downloaded it on Kindle, finished watching the interview, stayed up till 4 a.m. reading the book. I don't know. And it just kicked off this thing, and I haven't stopped since. So at this point, I've been doing the soul contract readings for 4 years. I've taken every single course I can take with my teacher and then some. And so in a nutshell, I don't even know if that was a nutshell, but it was a nutshell. That's how I ended up doing the soul contract readings. But it's one of those things where I felt like I've done this in previous lives, right? It came so easily to me.
Yeah.
And it was just, out of all the modalities that are out there, this is the one that called my name. And that's why I said, it's like they find these things.
I just have like full body chills as you're talking about it. It's like the energy that you bring when you start talking about it. It's just giving me full body chills right now.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's that. I'm telling you, like how I felt when I saw him talking, it's indescribable. Like I just knew. I don't even know what I knew, but I knew, right? It was like some calling, something. And anyways, but the cool thing about this work is once I dug into it, it helped me with forgiveness, right? And I think so many of us struggle with trauma, like childhood trauma, whatever sort of trauma, and forgiveness is something that many of us have.
I literally just finished with a client who this was the theme we needed to talk about, was forgiveness is very important for this client right now. And so it's just very uncanny that you just said that, because it's true. Forgiveness is what releases us from the thing that's holding us where we're stuck and continuously repeating through cycles of what we don't want to repeat anymore.
100%. And if you can't forgive, you're going to come back and have to do it again, right? With the same people.
I have had 2 moments of forgiveness in my life where the effect of how it shifted everything in my life was so profound. The first time was I had been single for 7 years because my boyfriend in my late 20s had cheated on me, and I was just like, I couldn't get over it. And I didn't realize how deep the pain had scarred me. And then 7 years comes by and I'm like, wow, how come I haven't been in a relationship since, you know? And I realized maybe I need to find forgiveness for that. And so I literally walked the beach looking for forgiveness. Like, actually not even looking for forgiveness. I'm like, just, if the path of forgiveness is here, just show it to me. And within 20 minutes of walking, I felt all of this emotion come up, and literally energy just right out of my heart. And literally the next day I met my next boyfriend.
Wow.
Like, mind you, another karmic relationship. It was another painful thing, but I know that was, we were meant to go through what we went through. And then the second one was with my abuser of sexual abuse. And it just released so much, literally released 6 pounds of weight off of me in 12 hours.
Wow.
And just helped me understand so many things and finally release all the stuff I had been carrying since 5 or 6 years old. So forgiveness is huge. Like, it literally has quantum impacts on your now in your timeline.
100%. And that's something that I personally was struggling with, because I had some childhood trauma that I couldn't let go. I mean, my adult self so badly wanted to just forgive and let go, but my inner child was like, yeah, I don't think so. And I know you do a lot of inner child work, because I told you, I saw a lot of your, a lot of what you talk about. And I find myself, because I meet with clients daily, and this is one of the biggest themes is inner child work. And we tend to attract, as practitioners, we attract like-minded people. So because I had childhood trauma, I attract a lot of people with childhood trauma. And so again, for me, when I looked at my soul contract, I was like, oh my God, I asked for this.
Yeah.
I needed these experiences to get through my karma. I needed these experiences to do what I came here to do. And when you start to look at it that way, I don't know, it just, like you said, it just lifted. It's like all of a sudden I was like, there's nothing to forgive. I asked for this, and these people are just playing out the roles I asked them to play.
And that is so hard to get to that point, but I can see how when you actually see your contract, it's like, oh, okay. Because truly, it's not that anyone here is a bad person, a good person. It's like we've all agreed to play roles, which inevitably we become both the good and the bad person at varying points in our life with different relationships, however way you want to slice it or dice it. It's just the way it works out. So we all get to play in that position. And it's hard to understand from the human perspective that we would ever ask for any of it.
Yes. Yes. And, this is one of the biggest pushbacks I get from people, especially when it comes to sexual assault or abuse. People say, how could I would have never, like, a child would never ask for that. Yeah. Well, no, obviously a child would never ask for that, but we're talking about soul contract level. We don't know why a soul would possibly create such a situation in their lives. Right. I mean, there could be many reasons for it. One, it could be karmic, and not everything is karmic, but sometimes it is karmic, right? Other times it could just be human free will. Yeah. And so some human took their free will too far. Well, now it is going to become karmic. Right. And so what I tell people, again, in my readings or when I can, it's always about looking at it from the highest perspective you can possibly get to. And that's just one of the things that the soul contract work has allowed me to deeply understand, is that as from a human perspective, I mean, we're literally seeing like this much out of the entire picture.
Yeah.
When you can start looking at it from, okay, here's my soul contract, here's my human design, here's my astrology, here's right. I mean, these are all pieces of the puzzle.
Yes.
And when you start piecing them together, you're like, you start to see the bigger picture.
Yeah. It gives you a lot more insight, a lot more depth and understanding. It's just like when it comes to astrology, you can't just go based off your sun sign, like you need to know all of the other stuff. You need to know the housing system, where your planets fall and all of that. So it's a lot more in depth, and the more information, obviously the more information you have, the clearer the picture becomes. So what was one of the first things that you recognized beyond understanding that, you created this contract with from your soul level? Like, what is the most, I guess, defining thing that really sticks out that you learned from your own soul contract?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll tell you, one of the most defining things for me was, I have this particular frequency in my chart, which we call the mother wound. And it sits in my spiritual karma.
Oh.
So I love my mom. We have a beautiful relationship at this point in my life, but growing up, that wasn't the case. And so when I saw that was part of my contract and it was in my karma, right? Like, this is something I came here to work through. It just, all of a sudden my life made a lot more sense, right? Because as a child, when things happen to you, you spend a lot of your time wondering why. I'm just a child. Why? Right? Even as an adult, because as an adult, you can rationalize anything, but the inner child is like, no, I was just a little girl. Why?
Like, how could you do that to me?
How could you do that to me? How could you let this happen to me? How could you do that to, like, all of that? But when I saw that again, it made sense. I needed somebody that was, we all have, as parents, and I myself am a parent and I have a mother, so it's like we're guides to our children. Sometimes it's more of a painful guide or a teacher, and sometimes it's a more loving guide, right? So with me and my daughter, we have a very loving relationship. I saw the moment she chose me. This moment, like, it's like, I remember distinctly looking back, and she's pointing at me, and what the message was is, she said her, because she knows me so well.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that was like, and this
More
isn't
chills.
something right? Like, me too. And this isn't something I got from my soul contract work. I mean, this is something I've done just from, other spiritual type of work. And with my mother, we had a very different dynamic. My mother and I were sisters in a previous life. And she was my younger sister. She was always in my shadow. So her and I had some stuff to work through, but for me, it all began seeing it in my contract to even understand that, to start kind of going backwards or up higher. I don't know, however you want to look at it, but just digging in deeper and understanding the why. And once I started seeing things from that perspective, it's like, it felt like, it's like an honor. I'm like, my mother chose to play this role for me in this lifetime to help me work through what I need to work through. Like, go ahead.
No, and I think, I don't mean to interrupt you there, because I think what you're going on is extremely important. Sometimes it's so easy to vilify someone who's, done harm, and rightfully so. It's totally understandable. It's not to take away from that, but what if that person agreed to play that role for you, you know, so that you could experience what you needed to experience? Like, what does that mean for that person that they're going through that role and having to live with that pain? That there's wounding and pain that has to come through that experience.
100%. And one of the things I tell people, sometimes the biggest villain in your life is like your bestest friend on the other side, because they volunteer to play that role, right? Because when they go through the life review, they are going to feel exactly what they caused you, the pain, right? So what you just said, like, I take that to my karmic connection. Like, I mean, this guy was amazingly damaging to me.
Amazingly damaging.
Amazingly damaging, you know. But you know, and there was so much trauma and pain. But again, after I've just have this different perspective of things, of what I just shared with you, I look at him and I'm like, this dude volunteered to be that guy for me in this lifetime. And I've seen our past life, like with him and I, the connection was so deep. Like when we were just physically next to each other, I would start seeing our past lives. We have many, and he has not been good to me in any of them. And that was kind of a trip to see in this lifetime, when things were still good between us, and seeing how horrible he was to me in past lives. And again, I knew things were not going to end well in this lifetime either, and they did not. But the key was to break the karmic cycle, which I did. And that's a kind of a different topic. We can talk about that. But now the forgiveness is what I'm coming back to.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I was able to forgive him, I mean, truly forgive him and actually thank him and be grateful for him in my life, is because so many women that come to me are struggling with a karmic connection. And I would have not been able to understand them or help them if I didn't survive that guy.
100%, 100%. This is why, like, when they say your purpose is found in your pain, it's so true. And there's so many wounds that we go through because we need to know them deeply in order to recognize them in someone else and help show them the path out of that. And it's a huge part of why I think a lot of us, like star seeds, come down here, is we choose these more painful paths because in order to be the healer, the teacher, the guide, you've got to know that path already. And considering the amnesia that we have to go through in order to come into this life, you know, you've got to live it in order to become that. And so there is huge honor in that, because I think that it's easy to talk about how the pain can destroy us, but at the same time, that idea of the phoenix rising from the ashes is born through that very same thing.
100%. Yep. So it all leads back to forgiveness, right? Yeah. Which is, again, when you were asking me about this work and just why I resonated with it so much, because it helped me forgive. That's that's the simplest answer, is it helped me understand, which allowed me to reach the forgiveness.
Okay. So when we talk about forgiveness, how does that translate into breaking karmic cycles? Because I know everyone in my audience is going to be wanting to know, okay, how do you break karmic cycles?
Yeah, no, that is an amazing question. So the key to, okay, when you're with somebody that's a karmic connection, and by the way, I should say that when I look at somebody's soul contracts, if I have the two names side by side, oftentimes I can tell if it's a karmic connection. So like, just to give you an example, and I'll answer your question, but to give you an example, when I put my name next to my most significant exes, every single one of them had a karmic connection with me. I mean, I was flabbergasted. I was like, you're kidding me. Every single one of them. So I don't believe I have met my, like, the soulmate yet. You know what I mean?
Is that like the spiritual karma section of the soul contract, or?
It could be physical or spiritual.
Okay. Physical or
yeah,
spiritual.
It could be either one or the other. For me, I had it with in the same exact spot with every single one of them, which was my physical karma, which for me is heartache.
Oh.
So I came in to experience a lot of heartache. in this lifetime. And they all helped me with it so much. My
Great
karmic
teachers.
connection. Yes, great guys. They were so good. They played their role so well. But I tell you, I'm at a point now in my life where the forgiveness is because I have so much love for them. Now, it doesn't mean I'm actually friends with them. Like, I'm not hanging out with my ex-husband or anything. I mean, we co-parent, so we're cordial, but, so I don't want people to confuse, like, I'm not saying forgive and forget, but I've let it go, the pain, the trauma, and I know on a soul level how much I love all of them, no matter how much damage they've caused me. And like I go in, there was a lot of damage. Like I said, my physical karma is heartache. So I tell people I have a PhD in heartache. Like, I really came here to experience that. So to get back to your question, the physical, how do we break a karmic cycle? So to break the karmic cycle, it's really important to first understand what is the pattern? What is the karmic pattern? Okay, so I'm going to use my karmic ex as an example. The latest, the latest one. So with him, as I was going through our relationship, what I discovered is I couldn't I couldn't explain myself. I couldn't, words literally wouldn't leave my throat when I was around him. So like, if there was an argument, I couldn't stand up for myself. I am not somebody who's ever lost for words, right? Like, I'm not that, but with him, I couldn't express myself. I couldn't say my truth.
Yeah.
I couldn't do any of that. It was like a very enslaving sort of a feeling. And what I've come to realize, especially when I started looking at our past lives, is this is a pattern, not just from this life, but from past lives. Like, I was never able to express myself to this man. And that's, for us, that was the pattern. So I think everyone's karmic connection is different, right? So there's no blanket answer on this. Like, you kind of have to look at your situation and your relationship and see, what is the pattern? What is the damage they're causing me? Maybe another way to look at it. So for us, I couldn't express myself. I couldn't speak. He wouldn't allow me. Like, he wouldn't call me back. He wouldn't text me back. He wouldn't show up. Right. So there's like literally no way for me to express myself, even if I wanted to. So once I realized that was actually the pattern, and I'll tell you, I sometimes consciously, it's very difficult to understand it. And so one of the things I did was, I'm very much into breath work. I don't know if you're in your audience, but okay, I figured you would be. Okay. So breath work. So, I remember going in, it was only a 5-minute breath work meditation, but there was one moment where I very specifically needed to get something out of myself to him, and I couldn't say it. And so I did a 5-minute, like a really intense breath work session, and I came out of it and I could tell it worked, because when it works, my whole face tingles, and like, I was really in it. And I opened up my eyes and I took my phone and I typed out a novel. I mean, this novel just poured out of me, and I wrote out everything I needed to say, and I hit send. That was the moment, I know, like, looking back, that was the moment I broke the karmic pattern, like the cycle. Cause I was like, I was able to come out of it and that meditation and actually say what I needed to say to him and send it without, like, not care, without the repercussions. Like, like, what is he going to do? Is he going to roll his eyes at it? Is he going to care? Is he going to read it? Doesn't matter what he's going to do. I said what I needed to say.
Yeah.
I set myself free. And that was me breaking the cycle.
I totally understand that. Yeah. And I've seen that come up in some of my relationships where I can tell that I'm like you, because I think what we're going to see it in my soul contract is my expression, using my voice, is extremely important to my journey. And I've had several relationships, not just romantic or intimate relationships, but several important key people in my life where I had to stand up for myself and take back my power, because I tend to give my power away so easily, which I understand was likely kind of from the sexual abuse when I was younger. And so really kind of using my voice to reclaim my power and actually like stamp it, it's almost like a branding of energy that just doesn't allow that to ever come back. And I'm getting all of this energy shooting up into my left foot right now. Wow. So yes, it's almost like the left foot's like stamping it,
Yes.
But it's true. And I've definitely felt that, where I know like this just ended something. Like you almost can feel the ripple effect through all timelines, through all lifetimes. Like it just breaks it.
Yeah, it is. It's just an inner knowing, and I think we all feel it a little bit differently. Um, but yeah, that for me, that it was just a knowing. And it was funny because I have excuse me, I have a very good friend who is she's extremely psychic. And out of the blue one day, she I don't remember if she called me or if I actually saw her, if we met up, but I remember it was, she looks at me and she's like, "You broke the cycle with him, didn't you?" Like we like, it was the first thing she said to me. I don't remember if it was a phone call or she saw me. I mean, I didn't say anything. And she's like, "You broke the cycle with him." And I'm like, "I did. How did you know?" I mean, she's uber psychic. So I mean, that was like a silly question. But um she saw, immediately saw to my aura, my energy, whatever it was, like this. And I'm telling you, it was that text.
Mm,
So like, it's not some voodoo magic,
no.
it's not like, and it's not just about the breakup, because we were already broken up. So it's not about it, but it's the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very defining energetically. It's very
Yes.
defining. So when you like looking at your life path and your purpose, did reading your contract help guide you more to where you are today? Or was there any kind of hints in there that helped give you more insight?
Um, Good question. Yes and no. I think here's what I actually know to be true, because I've done over 500 readings at this point. I think most of us are very aware of our
Mhm.
mission here. I
Mhm.
think people don't trust.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I believe I was one of those people where I always knew, what I'm supposed to do here, but I was caught up in the 3D world of being human, right? I mean, I had this whole other business for 14 years. That I built from scratch. I launched when I was 27. It was my baby, my first baby. I was attached to it. And for the life of me, I just couldn't let it go. Right. And I woke up on my 40th birthday and I had this very like daunting feeling. And it was like, you've run out of time. Like, if you don't step into what you've come in to do here, trauma is about to follow. Like that, those were the words. Like I heard trauma's coming. Like, if you don't step into doing what you're doing, and I am way too conscious at this point in my life to not listen. And I
Mm,
am done with trauma.
mm,
So I very quickly, I wasn't ready for this, but I put up the business for sale. I mean, I did all the things. Luckily, I found a buyer, somebody bought it, and I was on TikTok, essentially going viral, which I didn't plan. You can't really plan going
mhm,
viral on TikTok, and it
mhm,
just happened. So I just started posting on there to get the word, just to get the word out. It wasn't even to get the word out. It was almost to rediscover myself as who I am
outlet.
in the spiritual sense. Yeah.
Mhm,
Right. Because I was this businesswoman running this like tech company. It was a startup. I mean, it was just very different energy. I was very much in my masculine. And I've never seen myself as like spiritual Gellyahanah in flowy dresses talking about soul contracts. And TikTok was my way of almost seeing myself back to myself. And then it's went viral, and now I've got clients globally. And I just celebrated my 1 year on that. So it's been quite a ride.
I watched your TEDx talk, just a few minutes of it, right before we jumped on here. And my first instinct was, wow, her energy's so different now. Like you could tell there was so much masculine energy in that talk, just in how you were speaking, carrying yourself, holding yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was just it was such a departure from where you are today.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really interesting to observe. And I think that, a lot of us, considering the wounding that you've had to go through in your life, it's no wonder that your masculine energy was always like first and foremost. It
Yeah.
was very similar to me too. Like my feminine journey has been ongoing for the last 15 years. And it's just like a completely different energy now, and just to feel like a completely different person. But I know that in order to survive, I needed that masculine energy.
Yeah, same here. Say, I literally just today was talking to a client who had the same challenge with the masculine, and I reminded her, I said, you're not in survival mode anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you're not in survival mode, you are free to step into your feminine. And she's like, and that's not going to make me weaker. I
I
said,
know.
no, that's just going to give you more power.
And it's not that masculine means you're in survival mode, but it is the wounded aspect of the masculine energy is to be in survival mode. And so that's where a lot of us gravitate, right, too. So it's wild. It's wild. Well, do you want to pull up the contracts so that you can actually explain some of the sections and what they all mean? And we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So I've got it pulled up here. I think I just now need to
Oh, I need to give you permission
give
to.
permission to share. All right, all good. So tell me let me know when you can
Oh,
see
yeah.
it.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. All right. So here's your soul contract. Okay. So Nicole and Frolick. Now, again, I'm just going to take you through the first few minutes like I would when I'm giving a reading because I'm explaining it. So this is the name that's on your birth certificate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because one of the questions when I tell people I derive it from their name, they're like, so every Nicole has the same soul contract. I'm like, well, Nicole probably has a first and a middle name, right? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about those. So the full name on the birth certificate is as written is what's important. So we take the name. And again, what I'm doing is I'm converting it into sound frequency. Okay. So this is your name right here in sound frequency. Then what I do is I take these numbers and I put them around the Merkaba. All right. So the 14 goes here, then the 10 goes here, and on around the star. So for those people that are not familiar with the Merkaba, I mean, it's a sacred geometry symbol. It's a tetrahedron. This is also the heart chakra symbol. And again, these are things I tell people when I'm in a reading, because otherwise they're looking at it and they're like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
And to break it down further, this is really important. The triangle that's facing down, this is where we get all the physical aspects of our life. So physical karma, physical talents, physical goals. And we experience these very dominantly from ages 0 to 35. So this is where we experience our childhood trauma, our personalities getting formed, right? Like all the things. Around the age of 35, this triangle starts to kick in. The triangle facing up. And this is the spiritual karma, spiritual talents, spiritual goals. So around the age of 35, as we were saying right at kind of at the beginning of the podcast, is this is when we see some sort of spiritual awakening traumas, maybe, right? Again, like I said, my divorce came through at 34. Sometimes people have divorces, marriages, accidents, midlife crisis, career changes, you name it. Essentially, things that used to fulfill us no longer fulfill us.
Yeah.
And then ultimately in the middle, we have our soul destiny, which is what you came here to do now. Just because it says the word destiny doesn't mean you're destined to accomplish it. But this is what your soul is trying to accomplish. And many of us don't. This is why we keep coming back over and over, right?
Okay.
So to look at yours, so, your triangle that's facing down right here. And usually this is what I start with. And I start with the physical karma because for many people, this is, they're born right into it, right? So the 9-9, and you have 4 of them actually. The 9s are the most powerful frequency in this entire modality. If you look at the symbol, it's a dragon. And I remember when, you and I were talking about this, when I asked you, I said, do people find you intimidating?
And I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like
right?
all the time. It's like, and it's interesting knowing that that's my physical karma and also my physical talents. But, a lot of it has been like learning to take my power back, but not also being scared of my own power. And I have felt that I need to actually minimize my power in order to make other people feel comfortable. And I hate doing that.
Yeah. You probably shouldn't do that anymore.
No, I don't do it anymore.
Okay, good.
Anymore. But yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I cannot go on a date. Like it's about 95% of all dates that I've ever gone on with men. I can tell right away they're very intimidated. And I feel bad because I'm like, I don't know what else to do to make them feel. I try so hard to make them feel more comfortable, but I'm like, I'm just me. I can't.
Yeah. No, and I think that when we were joking about this too, but I was saying, when you meet a guy, send me his name, because you need a guy to have 9s in his chart in order for him
Yeah,
to
we're gonna maybe do that after the show.
Okay. All right. But no, but that's actually, I know we're kidding about it, but it's not a joke. Like when you
No,
have this
yeah.
much power, you need somebody that has at least 1 9
Yeah.
because otherwise you're just going to walk all over them. You're very powerful.
Yeah. And that's been the problem in a lot of my relationships, is either I end up walking all over them, or I've had to give away all my power, and I am like I am at the mercy of my partner, and then it's just awful.
Yeah. Well, because the other thing that the 9s tend to do, especially, I don't know, like when they're younger, they tend to attract narcissists.
Yeah. Yeah. How about sociopaths?
Yes. Yeah, that too. It's because you're attracting people that are taking your power away
Yeah.
because you're learning to step into your power and take it back.
Here's the thing I want to say, because we're talking about this idea of breaking karmic cycles and all that kind of stuff. I will say there is one of my partners, the one who cheated on me when I was 25, 26. He was a diagnosed sociopath. And wow. I remember watching him, like when we were still going out, being on the phone, talking to his friends and literally lying to them about everything, like the smallest things. And I'm looking at him going, why are you lying to them about like the fact that you ate a pizza for lunch when you had a sandwich? Like it was just stupid stuff like that. And he was such a profound liar that I started to learn all of the signs. Like I'm such an observer. I observe everything. And so the great thing is, at least now, when it comes to like the work that I do, is I can recognize emotional manipulation like it's nobody's business. Like I snuff that, I can sniff it out. Like it's just like, I don't know, it's just so easy for me. So anyone who tries to even attempt to use emotional manipulation on me, it's like it's stopped dead in its tracks. But the good thing is too, is that I can help clients understand it and recognize it in their own relationships and when it's not healthy and all of that. So that's what he taught me. I mean, it was shitty, but that's what he taught me.
Right. Yeah. And we have to be grateful to them for these sort of lessons, right? Like I tell people I survived that guy, and like I feel like I should make t-shirts. I survived him, whatever his name is. We're not saying his name, but I survived him, and it like, but same. I learned so much that now when clients come to me with some of these challenges, like the narcissistic traits, I see them immediately. And I'd never experienced anything like that in my life before or after. So I didn't understand what it was meant to be with a narcissist.
And you understand how easily it is for you to get taken down by one, and how much it takes to rebuild yourself up.
Yep. 100%. So again, you've got to be thankful and grateful for the experience, even though it caused pain. But I can genuinely tell you, at any given day, any given moment, if he somehow pops up in my life, I am just grateful. I'm like, thank you. Like, we don't need to be friends, but thank you for being who you were in my life. So, okay, but back to your 9s. So you attracted a sociopath. Congratulations. I've never heard that one before. So, but again, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, because that's an experience you needed to go through, and your abuse, the sexual abuse, 100% from the 9s. I see this so often with 9s. Just because you have a 9 does not mean that you're going to experience that, but I see it more often than not with my clients.
Especially when it's in your physical karma, I guess.
Especially when, yes. I mean, I've seen it show up in other places, but the physical karma is extremely disempowering.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, the cool thing about your configuration that we also talked about is you have a 9-9 in your physical talent. So the talents is what helps you work through your karma. You have the best combination, because you have a 9-9, you have a dragon on top of a dragon. So
dragons, baby.
yeah. So when I tell you there's literally nothing in this lifetime you couldn't accomplish, is because I'm reading this dragon sitting in this talent position, right? Not because I'm trying to be an empty cheerleader and be like, yeah, Nicole, you're amazing. I mean, you are amazing, but it's because just of how your chart's configured. And how you were saying, like you like your left foot, like you need to put it down and be assertive. So that's 100% from the fives right here. They need to take on more Aries characteristics of like being assertive and standing up for themselves. So you literally use the words without knowing that you're using the words that I use when I give people readings about
No
needing to be
way.
more
So
assertive.
that's why my Venus and my Mars are in Aries. That
There
makes
you
so
go.
much sense. Yeah. Okay.
There you go. And what I love about so a lot of people come to me that have done like other readings, so many other readings, because there's so many out there. And when I do the readings for them, they're like, wow, I heard the same thing from this reading, or I heard the same thing from that reading. And I'm like, well, if you're hearing the same message, clearly it's a valid message that you need to keep hearing. So I love that you just validated that, right? Because I'm like, I don't know your
Yeah.
all your
I know you don't.
like I don't, but I'm like, I know that this 5-5 is associated with the Aries. And that's something you're here to learn in this lifetime, is how to be more assertive, stand up for yourself, speak your truth. Your like speech is very important for you. You're meant to be heard, and speak your deepest truth.
Yeah.
So that's sitting in your physical goals right here. Now, again, this 9-9 sitting right here is going to help you achieve that. Like the 5-5 is essentially, the 5 is like a fetus frequency. It's very ethereal. It's like a fetus coming into existence. It hasn't even formed yet. It's very pure. It's very innocent. This is also your empath number.
Okay.
And then you've got a dragon sitting in the talent position. Like basically, there's no way you're not gonna not be assertive in this lifetime.
Is that why with the 5-5 and my physical goals, when you said like the empath number 2, is that why my whole life people have just came up to me and told me their problems? Like they just pour their heart and soul out to me. Like since I was a kid, like it's happened throughout my entire life. People just have this tendency to just open up everything to me.
That's actually because of your 7-7 right here.
Okay.
Okay, so the 7-7 is you're extremely magnetic. You magnetize people to you, and they come to you. They don't even know why they're coming to you, but that you pull them in and they feel comfortable in your space, so they share with you. This is like the 7-7 is also like a networking number. Like you bring people together. You're just very good with people. Like whether or not sometimes the 7s, like they isolate themselves. They don't actually want to go out, but when they do, they're very good with crowds. They're very good with people. I have a really funny story about, like, there's, I was doing a reading once for this gal, and she had, I don't know, maybe like 5-7 in her chart. And I told her, I said, do random people just come up to you and start telling you your life story? And she's like, okay, you have no idea. She's like, one time when I was in college, I was sitting on campus. We had a study group. There's about 10 of us, and we're just sitting there studying for like, I don't know, it was like the whole day they were there. And she's like, I kid you not, at least 10 people came up to me and asked me for directions. They didn't come up to anybody else in that group. They came up to me. And she said, everybody was making fun of me that day because they're like, do you give out directions here? Like, on the weekends, and we don't know. But that's how magnetic the 7 is, that she had complete strangers come up to her when there was just a group of people. So that's why they come to you. Now, yours is also sitting in your karma. Remember, I told you I have a 7-7 in my physical karma, and I tell people I have a PhD in heartache.
Yes.
So you have a 7-7 in your spiritual karma. So you have also have had a journey of heartache in this lifetime, most likely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. In fact, it's only through heartache that I've been like, the deepest heartache I've ever felt has felt like death to me.
Yeah. Same.
It feels like I want to die. Like I feel it so deeply. So it's the worst pain. It's the worst pain.
Well, I can relate.
Yeah.
I can relate, because like I said, I mean, I have the same, mine's just in my physical karma, but yours is right here. And the 7, so the keyword for 7 is to heal and open up the heart. So one of the things that you're here to do is to learn how to heal your heart and then help others do the same. No, good.
No, I was going to say with my ayahuasca journey that I had just in June, my whole intention was I want to clear and open my heart so I can love deeper. And so much happened there. And then of course I did a psilocybin journey 1 week later, which I had a massive heart opening through. And it's shifted a lot in my life. Some stuff I haven't even had a chance to really talk about on my podcast or on my channel and my podcast yet, but I've seen dramatic shifts as a result. But the heart has definitely played a huge role in a lot of like becoming vulnerable, like the raw and real, like really just opening myself up and allowing that rawness to be seen.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing for you because the sevens don't like to be vulnerable and they don't like to be seen. They don't want people knowing their business. Like people come to us and tell us their stuff and we listen, but we don't always share back the same way. And when we do, it's very controlled. So for you and me both, it's very important for us in this lifetime to allow people to see us for who we truly are and feel safe in doing that.
Oh my God, I wish I could share something with all of you right now. If you only knew what happened to me on the North Node Uranus-Mars conjunction, I had the most incredible heart healing. Like it, one day I'm going to share it. It's just not, I'm not yet ready yet, but it's all about being seen. And it was one of the most incredible experiences, like totally moved me. So it's just you even saying this right now is validating so much of what I've just been recently going through.
I'm so happy to hear that. Like truly, like this is what brings me joy, right? Because if I can help people validate what they're going through, this is why I do this. You know what I mean? Because I know how powerful it is and how life-changing it is. You know, so the fact that you just had this moment, again, I don't know what's going right. You haven't even shared this, so I don't even know this part about you. But again, the fact that you and I both have sevens in our karmic aspects, I know the way it's played out in my life, which is so ironic because my other company was so public, and I felt like the loneliest, most hidden public person. I mean, it was in my small town, not like I'm some huge celebrity or anything, but still, I was in front of a lot of people all the time, and nobody knew anything. You know, people only knew what persona I showed them, which is what the sevens do, you know? And so, for me to step out and it comes in layers. I mean, cause there's so many layers I haven't shared yet, right? I've got to write the book and I'm like, how am I going to write this book? I have to let people into my life if I write the book, you know? So it's something I'm constantly struggling with. Not struggling, but I should say it's a constant journey.
Yeah.
Of going deeper to again. And the reason that the sevens do that is because we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our hearts because our hearts have been hurt so much. It's hard for us we don't want to put ourselves on the line again, you know, for more hurt.
Yeah. No, I know. I know.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with your seven. But again, this is why people are flock to you. And same for me, people constantly flock to me. It's because we're magnets and we're catalytic. We're meant to empower them. Now you have these nines as well. So with your 9-9 and 7-7 combination, you really push people, whether they like it or not. Right?
Usually when they don't like it.
When they don't like it. Well, if they're ready for growth, you are phenomenal for them to be around because you help them work through their karmic aspects. Right. So anyone that's around you, like, you know, family, friends, romantic relationships, whenever somebody's physically close to you, you're literally helping them work through their physical karma. And like when they're not ready, yeah, it's very uncomfortable. If they are ready, it's massive growth. And same thing with your 7, you empower people. Right. Which is and you know, it's so important for you to speak in this lifetime and to share truth. Yeah. Truth is a huge theme in your chart. So the keyword for 5-5 is truth. This is also why you're so intuitive, right? Like I didn't ask you that, but I know you're very intuitive. Yeah. And that's because of your 5. They always know the truth of any situation. They know when people are lying to them usually, and they hate when they're being lied to. Which I think is so funny that you dated the sociopath. I'm like, wow, she really wanted to experience.
It's a pretty good detector now.
Yeah. So that comes from your 5. Now, notice how you have these 11 twos. So just so you know, I also have an 11-2 soul destiny. Okay. So you and I also have this thing in common, this frequency. That means, so we're builders. We're here to build structures of truth and to share the universal truth with people. Which again, no surprise there. I mean, look at what you're doing with your life, you know, and I'm like right there with you. I'm just, you know, like I'm in the process of building it all. But initially the way that the 11-2 plays out in life is the 11-2s are typically very sensitive. Okay, so yes,
Oh,
you
yeah.
resonate with that? Okay. Yes, they're very sensitive and they don't always know like what they want out of life, meaning they don't always know what they stand for, what they believe in initially. They're okay going with the flow because they're very harmonious. But they're not like the strongest leaders initially in life, and they tend to assimilate other people's ideas. So let's say a child grows up in a dysfunctional household, so they start to assimilate these dysfunctional ideas, and they don't realize they're dysfunctional. To them it's the norm because they don't have their own philosophy.
Okay.
As they go through life, they're meant to say, wait a second, this is not how I want to live my life. This is not even what I believe in. I have a completely different philosophy. Maybe I want to travel the world. I don't want to get married and have babies, or I don't want to go to college. I don't know.
You're
Right?
literally speaking me to a T right now. Like I was like, I want to go against every grain and like just break free of it all.
Yeah. Well, and that's what you're supposed to do. So good for you. Right. But that's what the 11-2s are meant to do, is so right here at this point is like, once they realize everything I've assimilated in life isn't actually me, they're meant to push it out, and then they're meant to rebuild their own structure of truth based on their philosophy. They're big the 11-2s, the philosophers. So whether it's spiritual philosophy or, you know, life philosophy, personal growth philosophy, whatever it is, right? I mean, I had one woman and she was very much into horses, and she I think she was a breeder, and she like, they were race horses, but she used a completely different method with her horses, and her horses would always win. But it was very non-traditional with how they race horses. And she had this 11-2, it was in her spiritual talents, I believe. And I was like, you clearly you're here to share this philosophy with people. And she's like, you know, I've always believed that, but I didn't know that. Again, people, we don't trust in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like the answer is usually so obvious.
It took me so long to get comfortable enough to do this. Like it wasn't until I started hitting my late 30s that I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, good. And late 30s is so remember how we said, so 35 is usually the cusp. So late, you're right on track.
Yeah. Yeah. 35 is when I finally broke free of the alcoholic, toxic relationship I had, and had given a lot of my power away again too. And it's just been rediscovering my power, also paying attention to where my soul was really wanting me to go, and also getting way more interested back into my meditation practice. That just started pushing me all the way heavy into spirituality and everything more than I had ever done.
Yeah. You were right on time. You know, I love that.
So for everyone who's like, this is important, because for everyone who feels like, well, I'm in my 30s or I'm in my 40s, and like, you know, like, what am I going to do? Or maybe even in your 50s, like there's still, I don't know, but I just see us living a lot longer than, you know, our predecessors. And I just feel like there's so much time still to do everything that you want to do. And there is no late time. Like, you know, I feel like you're not even supposed to know until you're 35, 40, what you're supposed to do.
100%. I cannot agree with that more. I tell people this on the daily. I did a reading today for a woman that's 67. And she's like, I feel like I'm now entering a whole different phase of my life. I'm like, you are, because everything goes in 7-year cycles, you know? And so it's like, when you're 35, that's the 5th 7-year cycle. And we're always going in different phases. As long as you are, you know, you wake up every day, you're still alive, you have an opportunity to make a difference. Your age does not matter. You know, whether you're in your 20s or in your 70s. And society tells us that in our 30s we should have, you know, the house and the family and the kids and the blah 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 blah. And it's like, actually, if you're, the more spiritual you are, probably the faster your life's falling apart, you know, around that time frame. So I agree with you. And like I told you, you know, that I woke up on my 40th birthday and they told me you're out of time. Right. I mean, I discovered this work years ago and I was doing it on the side while running my company, but I didn't step into it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, I love that you emphasize that. Thank you. I agree with you. But getting back to your 11-2s here. So again, the fact that you have one in your spiritual goals and your soul destiny, I mean, you're here to build something massive, like an everlasting structure of truth. So something that's going to last longer than you, like a legacy.
Yeah.
You know, so whether, you know, whether you write books or, you know, create your own material of sorts, again, whatever it is.
I'm in the process of creating my own method right now, that can be utilized like when I'm gone. And I've always known that I've said it, my legacy will live on in other people's hearts.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Here's your legacy and here's people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And here's you empowering them. That's awesome. So the only number we haven't talked about is your 6-6. And the 6s are very, very creative. So I don't know if you're artistically creative or if you have a lot of ideas. It shows up in different ways with everybody.
So I'm very creative with my meditations. So a lot of the meditations that I've created almost 40 meditations to this date. And I just like using different kinds of music that you don't typically hear. I love to get really creative with the guided part of it. Because, well, here's the other thing. My meditations are extremely visual. Like I have major DMT release through my meditation. So I channel that into a lot of what I do in the meditations that I either sell on my website or upload it into the alchemy program for everyone in that program. So that's one of them. But I also feel like, I don't know, some of it kind of comes through the way I've also designed the way I do my healing with people. Like, so when I do my readings or I do my inner child healing, like that was a really creative outlet for me in how I designed the inner child course, and the meditations that I created for that and just everything. So I can see like spiritually, I have a lot of creativity that comes through that.
100%. 100%. And so this is where you're getting it from. So when you have a 6-6 in your spiritual talent, it's all this creativity is coming at you from a soul level.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have a choice about this. The soul's going to constantly push ideas at you.
Mm-hmm.
It is your job to physically manifest them into reality.
Yeah.
So that's the positive aspect of the 6. They're very determined. They get things done. They're very creative. The negative aspect of it, and this may be played out when you were younger, but so I call this the ADD number. They're like all over the place. They sometimes have a hard time focusing because they have so many ideas. They don't know what to start, what to follow through on, or sometimes they have ideas, but they don't actually pursue them because they need guaranteed success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I dealt with that all my life. It only got a lot better when I finally chose this path and promised myself, this is what I'm committed to.
Yeah. Because when we're in path, everything just flows much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I know that we also did my chart without my middle name because I actually don't use my middle name anymore. I don't know why. And it's so interesting because it was somewhere around my 30s that I my early 30s that I'm like, I don't want that part as part of my name anymore. And it's not that I've had it legally removed, but I don't have it on any of my documents anymore. And it changes, obviously, the soul contract in some way, or you layer it. Like, talk about, because there's people who also will change their names. Like they don't feel like their name is right for them anymore. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't change your soul contract. So here, let me, I'm going to just stop sharing just for a second so I can pull up your name, with how you, without Anne. But just so you know, that doesn't actually change your contract. What that does is it here, let me download it, because we have some other names here that we looked at for you, which
Oh yeah.
just,
We won't bring those up.
yeah, we won't. So that's why I'm like, let me stop sharing for a second. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Perfect. So it's not that this changes your contract, but
Okay.
because you went by Nicole Frolick most of your life, and
Yeah.
you still do, like, these frequencies, I mean, they're playing out loudly in your life, but they're sitting like on top of your soul contract.
Okay. So it's a layer.
It's the layer, exactly. And so anytime somebody changes their name, like, let's say somebody gets married and chooses to change their last name, they're now taking on a whole new set of frequencies, but that doesn't change their soul contract. So what I tell people is, the way that you can't change your birth date, you can't change your birth name.
Okay.
Right? You can have other significant anniversaries or dates in your life, but you're not going to ever change your birth date.
Have you kind of looked into some of the reasons why people feel the need to change their name or drop part of their name?
I think sometimes it's just intuitive, right? Like sometimes people just know. And I tell you, like, name changes I welcome them, and they're very common. Like here, like in our culture, or most, I should say, Western cultures, like, we're attached to our names, like it's our identity, right? But I'm going to give you some examples of, and I'm going to use like, the Bible for this, regardless of how you feel about the Bible, like, just these
No,
stories
it's
are
a sacred
fascinating.
text. Yeah.
I agree. I'm saying this more for the audience, because you never know.
Oh no, they're totally open to all that
Okay,
stuff.
good. So in the Bible, this is a story that most of us know. There's Abraham and Sarah, right? And they're like the parents of essentially the culture, the populations of as we know it. So when God came to them to tell them that, this is going to happen for them, their names were Avram and Sarai. And then God says to them, I'm about to give you this very important mission, and I need to change your names. So from now on, you're going to be Avraham and Sarah. So before, God like gave them this mission of, hey, you're going to populate the earth as we know it, he changed their names because they were ready to take on this new mission. So something that I do is name optimization for people. And it's like feng shui for your name. You can think of it that way. And it helps you work through your karmic aspects and to accomplish what you came here to do. Right. So if we look at my name is optimized. I was born as Gellyahanah. I was born in the former Soviet Union. Well, most Americans can't pronounce my name as Gellyahanah. They say it back as Gellyahanah. So that's what I went with, but the spelling is phonetic, and it's because this particular spelling of my name gives me the perfect frequencies to lay on top of my birth chart to help me work through my heartache. And to help me reach my goal. Yeah.
Oh, so people could be changing their names to help them work through stuff that's in their soul contract already.
Correct. And so when you asked me, what do I think of people changing their names? That's why I said, I think sometimes people intuitively change their names. Like they don't even know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But they just have this feeling of, I need to change now, again, you're not actually ever changing your soul contract, but you're putting energies on top of it to help you work through stuff. Now, could you take on a name that hurts you? Yes. I've seen that often as well.
Oh, really? So what would be the reason like people would maybe do that on a soul level?
They're not doing it on purpose. Oh, on a soul level. Well, they're creating drama for themselves. They need to find peace. Right? I mean, it's a journey. Sometimes you'll see women get married and take on their husband's last name, and then the divorce happens very quickly, but they keep the name.
Oh my gosh. So to all the women out there, if you're about to get married, get your soul contract read now before you take anyone's name so you know what you're getting into.
Yes. Yeah, no, I like, we're laughing about it, but that's like a real thing. All my friends that are getting married, I'm like, I need to check your name. Are you taking on his last name? I need to check it. Or like babies being born, because again, it's like I can check the name. Like if parents have like a few ideas for a name, we can look at, okay, well, how does that work with, with the rest of the family? Because I can do family readings. Like I can put up everybody next to each other to see how people get
Oh,
along. Like
wow.
essentially, yeah. Like what are the contracts between all the family members?
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
wild.
It is. I mean, it goes layers and layers, and like, so I can look at people's business names. I could look at people's addresses. I can look at, like if, like this, like the program, that you're coming up with, like if you have a name for it, like we can look that up, because especially when you have a business of sorts, it needs to match up to the frequencies within your name.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit that can be done with this, but okay, but to get back to your initial question, sorry, I know I kind of like went in a tangent there, but your initial question of, but I don't go by my middle name anymore. All that means is that you have a whole other set of energetic frequencies playing out. So for somebody like me, who was born in a different country, I have so many names at this point that I've gone by. Like if I pulled up my chart, there would be like 6 or 7, like, because I was born with one name, moved here to this country, the name completely changes. Then people start calling me something else it just, story goes on and on.
Yeah.
For somebody like you, you have 2 main names. So it's much simpler, meaning you have a lot less of stuff to work through.
Okay.
So the more names you have, the more stuff you take on to work through.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
So, hence why, like, if you're ever going to get married, do you really want to take that name? Do you really want to take on that stuff? Or do you want to just keep your name as is?
Correct. And I never took on my ex-husband's last name, interestingly enough. But I've changed my name quite a bit of times because, again, me having this concept of understanding that name changes, and I just gave you one example in the Bible. There's actually many where people's names change because they're ready to take on the next mission. And so for me, when I stepped into doing this work, I became Gellyahanah Aakhen. Whereas before I was going by Gelly, which is just a short version of that. But I decided it was time for me to step into the full name of Gellyahanah. And it made sense. When I was younger, I felt Gellyahanah was like very serious and very almost like too regal for me as a child. I don't know how to explain that. But now I was ready to step into that.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So you've got a bunch of different numbers here that were not on my contract before. You don't have to go through all of them, but like, let's say 17-8. What's a 17-8?
This is your public speaker number.
That's crazy.
So
That's
all
crazy.
You're here to speak. So the 17, this is the analogous mouthpiece of God. See this little symbol?
Yeah.
That's the analogous mouthpiece of God. So when you speak, you say very powerful things that are healing for people. Like you say the right thing at the right time. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Just say it. Just say it.
Yes.
Yes. Because you're meant to speak and you're meant to be heard. So the fact that you're sitting there with a big microphone next to you, like you are doing exactly what you came here to do. You're meant to speak. You're meant to be heard. Again, we see 5s, which is truth. So you're here to spread truth. You're here to speak, to be heard. Okay, that's what the 17-8 is. The 8 is all about you connecting emotionally to the public, to the masses. Like you have this ability.
Does the fact that the 9s are underneath them, does that power them? Like in a sense, like do they receive power from the 9s, or how does that like work when they're layered on? Or is it just additions?
They're additions, but the way it works is, so like this 17-8 sits on top of the 9-9.
Yeah.
So the 17-8 is powering the 9, not the other way around.
Okay, got you.
So for instance, this 5-5 on top of your 9-9. So this is a fetus sitting on top of a dragon. So I don't know how powerful this combination is, but essentially, if anything, it's helping you hear more truth, know more truth. Because the 9s, they're very connected and they know, like they're very intuitive. So the 5-5 sitting on top of the 9 is helping you with more of that intuition.
Okay.
Although the dragon is so powerful, I don't know that the fetus is gonna power it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
If
totally.
it were the other way around, this 9 would be burning through the fetus.
Yeah.
But we're getting a little technical here.
Yeah, yeah.
So the 22-4, this is a very powerful number as well. This is the number of completion. It's the very last sound frequency in this entire modality. I think I'd also mentioned to you at some point, sometimes when I see this frequency, it speaks of infertility.
Yes, 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 yes. And of course, everyone on the podcast, well, if people have been listening to me for a while, I did have a miscarriage back in 2018, which sparked my whole healing journey with healing my womb space metaphysically and emotionally. And I had success with it. So incredible success. But I guess in a way, I've kind of closed out that cycle because that was something that would show up in my past lives.
Yes. And oftentimes this does come from past lives. And I love that you understood that it's the womb healing that you needed to do. Again, you're so aware, like, of course you're tapped into that. You're going to know that, oftentimes when I'm doing readings with women and they're going through an infertility process and it's very painful for them, they don't always know or understand where it's just, because I do readings, a lot of the readings for 3D people as well. So I've got to like always bring it down to, like what level they're on. But I always tell them, if you have this frequency and you're going through infertility, it's meant to be part of the journey, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have children. Because sometimes people get through it and then they'll have like 4 kids by accident.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the lesson here is fertility, infertility, scarcity to abundance. So it's like, it could be one way or the other, and so if somebody says to me, no, I don't have infertility challenges, and they have this frequency, oftentimes, like I said, they'll have like 4 kids, 5 kids, like it's usually the abundance of it. So it plays out a little bit differently in everyone's lives. This numbers also speaks of completion. So there's something, you're graduating something on a soul level.
Okay.
And that, I don't know what that is until you get to your life review,
Yeah.
But,
and so then when you go down, the dragon shows up again, the 9-9. So that's powering up my soul destiny.
Correct.
Okay.
And the 9-9, when it sits in soul destiny, guess what it's talking about? Sharing the truth with people. So you have yet another truth theme that's sitting on top of your
I can't escape it.
truth. You can't escape it. You are here to have a very loud microphone and to spread the truth to the people.
My inner child actually really likes it when I hold a microphone, which is so crazy because I was so deathly scared of public speaking as a kid. I think it's just the wildest thing ever. But now it's like one of my greatest joys.
I love to hear that. The 17-8, I told you what it is in the positive sense. In the negative sense, it talks about, the lesson here is called slavery to freedom. So it's kind of like an enslaving energy of maybe sometimes feeling like you can't escape. So I don't know if when you were a child, you felt trapped somehow, or maybe in relationships, but it's almost this feeling of like, why even bother speaking my opinion? It's irrelevant.
I felt trapped in all of my relationships, pretty much all of my relationships. And then also when we think about what we've just been through, like globally, I had to really work through a fear of the jab and really overcome that mystically and spiritually to set myself free from the fear of it. It wasn't, it's not that I agree with it or don't agree with it. It was the fear that was completely giving my power away. And so this whole journey is just about reclaiming everywhere I gave my power away, where I feel enslaved or where I feel trapped, like setting myself free. Totally. It's a massive theme throughout my whole life.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you remember what the name of my TEDx was called. It was called Journey to Freedom. sink,
Yes.
swim, or fly.
Yes.
And when I would, as I mentioned to you, I was going by my Gelly name. I had this 17.8 frequency in my chart a few times. So when I changed my name to Gelly, I brought in this public speaking frequency. And when I had, it's like, I used to do a lot of public speaking. I've been on more stages than I can count, and I have a TEDx talk, and it's
Yeah.
it's because of these 17.8 frequencies that I brought in. And for me, one of the biggest themes in my life is freedom too. Is I'm always looking, like some people chase money, I chase freedom.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's like,
Yeah.
I want flexibility. I want the freedom to make my schedule, time, everything. Like, don't pin me down. Like, it's just
Right.
like, you can't hold me down. If you try to clip my wings, I'll grow them back bigger.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, so it's like the name of my TED talk was Journey to Freedom, Sink, Swim, or Fly. Like it's the same
Oh, I
concept.
love
Like
that.
I
I
needed to
love that.
fly, like my wings need to be big, and I use the word chase. I don't actually chase anything. I attract it,
Yeah.
I was just using that metaphorically, but yeah, but that's what your 17.8 is. You're meant to be speaking here. And then you have another 16.7 here, which, the 7, again, it's all about attracting people. And the 16 is that you're a conduit. You are constantly channeling. You're just constantly channeling. That's it. Like always information's just flowing through you.
Yeah. I
And when
feel
you're in
that.
a good place, you're bringing in positive things. When you have down days, you're probably channeling or attracting the negative stuff because
Yeah.
you just have this constant antenna that's just always
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So that's a quick explanation of this one. And then the
Very cool.
18.9 tells me that you're an old soul. I mean, duh. I see that from the 22.4 and the 18.9, but the 18.9s, they're usually very spiritually evolved souls that have walked many spiritual paths, like
Okay.
in previous lives. And in this lifetime, you're giving the choice. Do you want to walk the spiritual path or not? Right? Because it's always a choice. So it was presented to you and you could have gone the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So usually with the 18.9s, there's a theme in their life of choices. They have to make choices. And initially in life, they're not comfortable making choices. They're not secure enough in themselves. They maybe
Totally.
question themselves. Yep. But
Oh,
they're in the positive sense, they're phenomenal decision makers. Once they set their mind to something, they follow through, they get it done. They don't question themselves. Phenomenal business leaders, strong visionaries.
wow. Like, this all, like, you reading it all out is just helping me understand myself so much more. Like, it's so wild. I know the audience is just going to be loving this information because it's really helping me understand. You know what it is? It's giving me more confidence to continue forward with everything that I have planned for myself and everything I'm already doing. Like, I'm now understanding, like, I literally chose this already.
Yes.
So I think it's great. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, well, I'm sharing my contract with all of you, but thank you for taking the time to share with the audience how it's all done and what everything
Of
means.
course. Oh my gosh, this is please like this is the biggest play for me. Like the fact that I get to do this every day, for people and change lives and dig into people's souls daily. I mean, this is like the biggest play. Like when I was younger, I have to share the story with you. I'm going to stop sharing my
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, please do.
But maybe about 8 years ago, I right before I was at the crossroads, I didn't know to leave my ex-husband or not. I was in the situation. I went to see a psychic, right? Because that's what we do.
Yeah, that's
We
what we
go
do.
see a psychic. And I sat in front of her and it was like at a psychic fair. And she looks at me and she says to me, "You're sitting on the wrong side of the table." She's like, "You need to be the one doing readings." And I'm like, "Oh my God, really? I pick like the worst psychic out of all the psychics here." I'm like, never in a million years did I ever think I would be doing readings for people. Like, like secretly, I always kind of course, wanted to do that. Oh, it'd be so cool if I could learn something and have some intuitive mystical art. But like, I was like, that's never going to happen, right? Ego kicks in and tells you
Yeah.
that's never going to happen. So when I sat in front of her and she said that to me, I rolled my eyes. I was like, I'm like, okay, I'm not here to talk about that. I want to know about my ex-husband. But she said that to me. And then we did this whole reading, and I've stayed in touch with her. We've actually become good friends. And my point in sharing this with you, fast forward to now, and yes, I am doing readings, and I want to build a much bigger business out of this, because I'm here to also spread truth like you, right? You and I have that same 11 too. I need to build this into a scalable business. I've got the podcast, I've got to write the book. I mean, there's just so much more I need to do with this. But the fact that the past year I've got to do readings all day or like almost every day for people and get paid for it, it doesn't feel like work.
No,
right?
I know.
I'm saying something so cliche, but it's play, and I love it, and it's life-changing for people. And I'm like, how am I living this existence right now? Like, is this even real?
I know. I feel the exact same way about my work. And and I wish that for everyone. I wish for everyone to find whatever that is for them, to engage in it and make it feel like it's playtime. Like my inner child loves it when I get to pull out the cards and like do tarot readings or oracle readings or whatever it is, so it's so fun. I love it. And it's true. It's just like, you don't realize, but you needed to make a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, so there was one other thing. I don't know if we wanted to show the audience, and I'm trying to think how we would do this, but because so many people ask about karmic connections and they want to know what those look like. Did you want me to just quickly pull up a chart and show what one looks like?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so let's do that. And I only say that because like that's one of my most frequently asked questions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do it.
So I figured people might be asking you, but hold on. We don't want to use your name. I want to show, I'm going to pull up my name really quick here. So let me just navigate towards it. And now I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'll use, okay, because they're gonna see the guys' names, so I'm trying to pick we're gonna pick a guy that would be okay to use. Okay, here we go. I found one. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen.
Mm-hmm. The juicy part of the podcast.
Yes. So, okay, so we're using, oops, we're using his name. Okay, so this is my ex-husband. Okay, so he's fine to use. Everybody knows who he is. But what I wanted to quickly show is in the physical talent position, see how he has a 7-7.
Yeah.
And I have a 7-7 physical karma.
Yeah.
So this is the karmic connection.
Oh.
This is what it looks like. So when I pull up someone's name, and again, whether it's their romantic partner or a parent or a child, whoever, this is how I can see.
I remember this showed up in one of the charts we pulled up.
For you?
For me, yeah. I remember this showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, we want to be cautious with names. So, but I just wanted to quickly show your audience what that looks like.
So is it sevens, or is it when there's a matching number in?
When it's a matching number. Yeah.
Okay. And is it within like the spiritual component, or could it be spiritual and physical matching numbers?
Yeah. It's so usually one sits in karma and one sits in the talent position, and it doesn't matter if it's physical or spiritual.
Okay. Karma and the talents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, so it's like, it could be a little technical for people. We don't need to go into but I just wanted to show that this is how I can usually see if it's a karmic connection, because I get so many women coming to me, and sometimes it's not. They're like, I know this is a karmic connection. I'm like, no, it's not actually.
There could be good karma too, like.
Yes, actually, you're absolutely correct. Me and one of my friends, Katie, actually, you had her on your
Katie,
podcast.
she's been on the show. Yeah.
So Katie's one of my bestest friends. And Katie and I have more matches than I've seen in anyone's chart ever. I mean, mine and her chart are like a jigsaw puzzle. I've never seen anything like it. It's unbelievable. Like, so where she has karma, I have talents of the same number, and vice versa. And we just support like this. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, wow.
So I probably should have actually used her chart as an example, but we just fit, and so a lot of times between soulmates, like when someone has a really good marriage and they're like, oh, I'd love to see my husband or whatever, and that I see no karma between them. They have some very supportive frequency and they don't have any karmic numbers. So it's fascinating to see that. But usually with the karmic connections like that, especially when it's romantic, it's something painful. And then the other question I often get asked is, can you see if it's my twin flame?
Oh.
The answer is no, because we don't know the definition of twin flame, because there's a gazillion definitions of it.
And I believe that you have more than one twin flame. Like, like I feel like when you think about it, like I just feel like I just don't believe that in a super abundant universe that you would only have one twin flame, like to me, that's the psyop that gets you stuck in a relationship that isn't probably the healthiest for you. It's the one you want the most. And then you just get stuck in this yearning, wanting, waiting pattern that literally holds you back from so much in your life. And so I think it's a bit of a psyop. In many ways, it's not that I don't believe in the twin flames, but I think the way the story's been told has been manipulated so that we get in this Disney romantic story time life belief that, like my one true love, I must be with them in order to have the love I've always wanted. And ultimately, I think when you're with your twin flame, I think there's some really good things, but you're like ridiculous to think there's not going to be major challenges as well.
Right. Agreed.
It's how you get through challenges. You could get through them a lot better together, but yeah. So
I agree.
I don't know. That's my personal opinion on it.
No, I don't disagree with you. And then, one of the other frequently asked questions I get, people say, well, if he's my karmic connection, could we get through it and then have it be good? The answer is no. It's a karmic connection. You're meant to break the karmic cycle. So that's just, I get that question constantly. No, I think with soulmates, it's different. Soulmates can have karma between them, and they can work through it. But if it's a genuine karmic connection.
So if you were to see someone, you can tell in their chart of their soulmates, and there might be like a karmic thing in there, they could overcome that. But if they're just strictly karmic, no soul thing, then it's like, no, like peace out, get it done.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And the way that that is usually it's toxic, because with your soulmates, with your true soulmate, it's not going to be, it could be painful, but it's not going to be so toxic.
Yeah.
The karmic are the ones that bring in the true toxicity into a relationship.
Wow. So interesting. There's like so much depth to the contract that you can read into. I love it. So let my audience know where they can find you. If they want to book a session, like how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, no, great question. So, my website, that might be the easiest for them to remember, is yoursoulscontract.com.
Okay.
So yoursoulscontract.com. And then I'm on Instagram, and it's Soul Contract Practitioner.
I'll leave all the links in the description below for everyone. So, and of course, if they want to learn more, like your TikTok's just a wealth of information, like of really learning. I mean, Instagram as well. I'm sure you put them on your reels, but you've got like so much on TikTok that is, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, no, that's true. I do have a lot on my TikTok account. Yeah. So my TikTok account, and I'm sure you'll link that one too. It's my name, at Gellyahanah 525. That account has been like shadow banned because TikTok just tends to shadow ban accounts. So I am active on that one, but it's not really growing. So I'm working on trying a new one. So yes, they can find me on TikTok, but I feel like the more sure bet right now is going to be Instagram or my website if they want to book directly.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll leave all the links for that in the description below. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been so much fun.
So much fun. I feel like we can talk for hours and hours.
I know. Well, to my audience, I hope you learned a lot. I hope that you could see how important it is to really pay attention to the choices you're making, understand the relationships that you have, and maybe, there's really a lot of healing and understanding that we don't have to make every person who's hurt us the villain in our life, because at some point we are the villain in someone else's life too. And it just helps open up the heart for compassion, to really understanding the soul's journey on a deeper level. So if you're interested in booking with Gellyahanah, I highly suggest it. And of course, all the links are below. Guys, I love you so much. Have an amazing evening, and I'll be back with you next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.